Number 10. Spring lock doors. Something that has come up multiple times over the course of all of these games, a question that still has yet to be answered, is how do the doors open if the power turns off, considering that they're mechanical doors? Well, what if the doors are actually spring loaded and it's the power that holds them in place, and then when they turn off they just snap upwards, I guess. The other strange thing in general about the doors is that they slide upwards, not sideways. That just means those straight looking sheets of metal are actually able to curl up somehow, being stored in the ceiling like a garage door, although I don't think that's what's happening, or that there is a wall directly above for that door to slide into, which would be a lot of convenient wall stacking, especially if this is a one-level building. Then it really doesn't make sense. Either way, I can only imagine that these doors would even be capable of springing open if it was the power alone keeping them shut, and that they are somehow spring-loaded to always be open, unless the power is on to push them down. That's the only way we can rationalize the way they work. Maybe this is also why our power runs out so fast as well. After all, I'm assuming it would take quite a bit of force and therefore power to keep them in place if they were spring-loaded. Number 9. Kelsey is Andrew. Kelsey is the new kid in one of the stories from Fazbear Frights, number 3, 1:35 AM. Coincidentally, I think one of my favorite books in the Fazbear Frights series. The story itself is also titled appropriately The New Kid. It centers around Kelsey, who is a new kid at school that everyone likes because he is so friendly and good looking. In the end, Kelsey ends up being betrayed by his new friends that he's made, who try to scare him by taking him to an abandoned Freddy's location and making him dance around in a spring-lock Golden Freddy suit, which of course malfunctions, killing him. Later on, one of the friends comes back for Kelsey only to get stuck in the suit himself and see a corpse inside that doesn't seem to match Kelsey's appearance. This corpse is noted as having black curly hair, which led many fans of the books to speculate that Kelsey is in fact the vengeful spirit Andrew, who also appears in another story later on in the book series, The Man in Room 1280 from the 5th Fazbear Frights book. In that story, the vengeful spirit, whom many believe to be Andrew, one of the spirits that possesses the Stitch Wraith, appears as a dark boy with curly hair wearing an alligator mask. With a description of his hair matching that of the corpse found inside the spring-lock Golden Freddy suit, it's easy to see why people think Kelsey is Andrew. Number 8. Plushtrap is from Sister Location. And what's more, might also be an older model spring-lock suit? Based on what Circus Baby says about the spring-lock suit we are stuck in coming from her old location, we could theorize that Plushtrap is also a Sister Location spring-lock suit, especially since Plushtrap looks much older by comparison. But why do we think Plushtrap is also a spring-lock suit? Well, it's interesting that in the book Fetch, we learn more about the Plushtrap animatronic, where it is implied that it can mimic the voices of other folks, something that prior to Fetch's release, only Sister Location animatronics seem to be capable of. This is what makes us think that Plushtrap comes from Sister Location and perhaps was an older animatronic brought over from Circus Baby's previous location. While Plushtrap doesn't really fit in with the overall aesthetic of Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, we do know that an older spring-lock suit was also kept there. Does that mean that Plushtrap is also an old spring-lock that initially was its Sister Location, just based on the voice mimicking? If so, how did they get to be with the Nightmare animatronics? And also, who wore the Plushtrap suits if they were ever worn, if they were spring-locks in that way? Was it designed for a shorter employee or possibly for kids to wear? Also, just to be clear, I'm not implying that that is the spring-lock suit that we are in Sister Location when you're playing the game, because yeah, I don't know how tall Michael Afton is, but I don't think he's as small as Plushtrap.
And it's 7, Chill Bonnie. Okay, bro, honestly, in all these episodes, Bonnie is the chillest dude ever. I don't know why. I don't know what he's on, but honestly, I'd like to borrow some. I have no idea why Bonnie is being so chill in these videos. Some thought it's because he was sentient or aware that everyone is a robot, so there aren't really consequences. Some thought it's because he wanted to be dismantled, which is dark. And I thought it was because he was gonna be the one to recruit Foxy onto the team. However, for some reason, they still ran away, which makes no sense to me since why would you run if you weren't scared? But whatever. Honestly, it could be because Bonnie isn't going to be in Security Breach and that's why he's so chill and why this episode was glitching out more than the others, but after the discovery in episode 4, I think that they were just introducing the concept of the purple glitch so that we wouldn't be as suspicious in the next episode, but honestly, I think that they should have made the other sections pink instead of yellow so it would have been harder to catch, but hey, either way, Bonnie's a stoner, confirmed at this point.
Number 6. Shadow Freddy and RWQFSFASXC. I think I said that all right. This theory, I believe, has been debunked, so just a word to the wise about that, but I still thought it was a pretty cool theory that existed, and I personally like the sound of it. I think it's a neat theory, hence why I'm gonna share it here with you, even though it's been discredited. But just know, we know that. The theory posits that Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie were both victims of a spring lock failure. Phone Guy talks about the sister location experiencing multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, leading some fans to think that might explain the shadow animatronics we see and what exactly they are. Spirits who are attached to the suits that they died in, but were for some reason unable to fully possess them, instead becoming a shadow-like version of that animatronic. I just think it's a cool idea. I mean, shadow animatronics are so mysterious to me, so when I find cool stories that could explain how they work, their theories, I love them.
Halfway through into number 5, Ultimate Custom Night. I think we all know where William Afton he deserves to go, okay? One-way trip downstairs, or as Henry said, although for one of you, the darkest pit in hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. I'm still waiting, Afton. And you know what? We thought we had gotten rid of him. We thought that William was in hell for Ultimate Custom Night. However, this proves to not be the case when the Man Room 1280 was released, showing us that instead William had only been in a coma like his son years before. However, this time winning was him waking up instead of dying, only dying when he explodes in the Fazbear warehouse and creates Glitch Trap, but apparently this is no longer what happened. Because did William really possess a hard drive and become sentient code, or is there something more going on here? While yes, weird things in the series can be explained away with it's FNAF, or like a dream theory of something, but like, no, I'm not doing that, okay? That's the coward's way out, and I'm not a coward for the most part. Although I don't want to play horror games. But like, just look. If Afton is in Burntrap, he shouldn't be able to be Glitch Trap. The Ultimate Custom Night is just Burntrap being in the pod. It's what he's seeing when he's in the pod. So everything we thought we knew about Ultimate Custom Night doesn't count anymore. And that's hella annoying because, you know what? We thought we had something. We thought that we had finally figured out one thing about this series. Then you know what Scott says? Up yours!
Number 4, Bite of 83. We know that Fredbear was the one behind the Bite of 83 based on the minigames we see in FNAF 4. And we also know that CC was the victim of said bite and eventually died of his injuries. But what we don't know is why the bite happened. However, if you look deep into the lore surrounding spring locks, it feels like a no-brainer here. Sorry, no pun intended, crying child. Sorry about that. We already know that spring lock failures have pretty much been an ongoing problem since the creation of the suits. And we also know that spring lock failures on a massive scale eventually got these kinds of suits retired. So what if the Bite of 83 was the major beginning of that? What if the bite happened because of a spring lock failure itself? All the clues seem to be pointing us in this direction. A technical issue is the only real explanation, as the animatronics themselves seem to have not been inherently malicious, not until they were bonded with spirits which lingered inside them, making them vengeful. And so if there wasn't a spirit in there, then we must assume there was a technical error, a spring lock malfunction.
Getting close to the end, and in number 3, new animatronic. In episode 3, we got our first look at a random new animatronic presumably appearing in Security Breach, but we have no idea where or even how because this guy looks freaking massive. All we see are its feet, which looks like hands, but you can't even see it on screen. This thing is so tall. I'm currently calling it the tall boy, but my question is where the hell did it come from and where does it fit? Because this seems too damn big to fit into a mall-sized Pizzaplex. Unless it's shorter than I'm imagining, or the Pizzaplex is bigger than I think, but either way, this doesn't really make sense considering how the freaking hell does this thing actually fit into the gameplay. Like, this came out of nowhere, unless it's just like a passive animatronic that walks around and doesn't really do anything other than block your path momentarily.
Number 2, spring lock suits were designed to malfunction. You have to wonder when you learn how easy it is for a suit to malfunction, if the suits themselves were ever actually made with the intention of functioning in a safe manner. It seems more likely that they were made with the intention to do harm. The spring locks can malfunction if not wound up securely and properly before the wearer dons the suit. Not winding up the springs properly can result in them simply going back to their original position, impaling the wearer. hair. The thing that I find very suspicious is how a small amount of moisture, such as that which comes from heavy breathing or even just moisture in the air, can cause the spring locks to completely loosen. These are also suits that you'd think were intended for you to move around in, acting as the character you were dressed up as, and yet in sister location we are warned not to move too much as this can actually set off the spring locks, implying either the locks were not at all secure when the suit was put on us, or that they are so temperamental that basic movements could set them off, never mind jumping around, dancing, or in general performing as the character that you happen to be dressed as, which is what I'd assume would be expected normally of an employee donning a mascot suit. Number 1. Henry sabotaged the springlock suits. We don't really have a lot of clearly defined lore from the games that lets us know who really made all of the animatronics between William and his business partner Henry. In some continuities, it's implied that William is more the inventive one, whereas in others, William is more business savvy and Henry is more robotic savvy. It could be possible that the two were actually a little bit of both. I think that makes the most sense just based on everything we've learned about them. If this is the case, who's to say that Henry wasn't the one behind the springlocks, and perhaps after losing his daughter, sabotaged said springlock suits while in a vengeful state. When William, however, did not die from springlocks impaling him, Henry had to resort to other means later down the road, like what we see in Pizzeria Simulator, with him rounding up all of the former animatronics and then burning the place to the ground. Or potentially with Henry being behind the burning down of Fazbear Fright, which also was a suspicious thing that happened, and we don't really know who's behind it, but I feel like Henry could make sense there.
An intent nightmare arm. The arm at the end of the initial security breach teaser drove the internet mad for like a week before we ultimately just said we'll wait for the next trailer. And with the most recent, which was the last trailer before the game's release, we still had nothing about that arm. And I guess I can understand why, but it was still frustrating. So you can guess that when someone tagged me on Twitter at Centimeter Monroe and showed me a picture comparing the security breach arm to the arm of Nightmare Freddy, I'd be intrigued. So intrigued, in fact, that I actually got angry because if it's ever intended on being a Nightmare Freddy arm, I'm leaving, okay? Like, these animatronics are perfectly content being illusions, okay? Or in a child's imagination running wild while his body is trying to save his life. But like, still, what the hell? Like, how do these versions of Afton in an animatronic keep changing? They all have his body in it, so they must be intentionally the same endo, but then it keeps changing designs still. And it ain't not Afton. Some thoroughly believe that this animatronic, this new version of the Spring Bonnie animatronic, to not be William, and instead possibly be Henry Emily, William's business partner and father of his first victim. Why do they think this? No idea. However, I can kind of see why, but simply it's just due to inconsistencies, since seemingly the endo for this version of Springtrap also has the same endo as the Glamrock animatronics, or the ones that we see in what is honestly the scariest part of the game. Those are the only real endos that we see. Since if this was Afton, the endo should be the first version of the endoskeleton. My explanation for this is simply because they had this model for the endo in the files and they were rushing to release something after already delaying the game multiple times, so they used it and added the Springtrap bits onto it. And since he's so destroyed, it's really difficult to determine whether it's the same design as Scraptrap, and since Henry was also in the FNAF 6 location, it could be him technically, or at least he was around the location, but I still doubt it.
Number 7. Kelsey is crying child / Cassidy. While Kelsey being Andrew could make some sense, others have speculated that the corpse found inside the suit actually belongs to Cece, crying child. This is obviously because of the physical description of the corpse, which has curly black hair. A lot of people coming back to that curly black hair for a lot of these theories. This description matches the appearance of crying child, who also appears to have black and curly or wavy hair based on what we see in the games. But Kelsey is blonde. How does he fit in? Well, it is possible that Kelsey is the amalgamated manifestation of both crying child and Cassidy, who perhaps both haunt Golden Freddy if in this continuity they were both victims and have decided to share possession of the animatronic. Neither of them of course was blonde, but they could be changing their appearance together, using a disguise to go out in the world and trick bullies into trusting them. Cassidy could also possibly be considered the more aggressive personality, while crying child could be considered the nicer side, and also might bring the masculine appearance to the table when it comes to their disguise. Because obviously Cassidy was a girl, so yeah.
And at 6, AI. It is unknown how Glitchtrap was able to leave his body for the events of FNAF VR, or how he re-enters it for the events of Security Breach. Based on everything we know about this series, it should be impossible for Glitchtrap to exist if Afton is still inside Burntrap, especially if the one you should not have killed is keeping him alive still, since that would prevent Afton from escaping from his body. And despite a line of dialogue in the trailer clearly coming from some sort of William Afton, Burntrap never speaks throughout his entire encounter, which only makes this more confusing, since if he talked, we would know that he isn't an AI, but he doesn't talk, so we can't be sure if he is or not, since not talking doesn't exactly mean that he's an AI, since people can also choose not to talk. And the AIs in this game also talk, so at this point, we have no idea if he is or isn't an AI, which is really annoying. Although, I still believe that the one you should not have killed is Gregory, not Cassidy, but you know, well, MatPat doesn't want to talk about it. He won't respond to my Twitter, okay? Or my Instagram. Or literally anything at this point. MatPat, please. Let's talk about this. Halfway through into number 5, FNAF 4. There is an undeniable connection between Freddy and Friends on Tour and FNAF 4, thanks to the TV that also ends up indicating the year the game takes place in. On that same screen we can find a TV show called Fredbear and Friends, which some of us just took to show that the Freddy's brand was bigger than we thought, but it also strengthens the connection we've been debating since first seeing Gregory, that he seems to resemble Crying Child an awful lot, and the fact that this show, promoting a game that Gregory is a playable character in, is called Freddy and Friends instead of Fredbear and Friends, is certainly not something to gloss over. This is a direct link to FNAF 4, but in a slightly more subtle way, and I mean like very slight. But does this mean that we'll start to learn more about Crying Child as a character? Will we be given his name? Or is his name actually Gregory? Is Greg the Crying Child? We don't know. But I guess we'll have to wait to find out. December 17th, I'm calling it. Same day No Way Home comes out, I'm calling it. And at 4, survivors. It seems like everyone we've seen the true ending to Security Breach, including Burntrap, are survivors of the FNAF 6 fire, which means that this would indeed be Scraptrap or Springtrap, but as to how he changed again, I have no idea. How do we know that this is everyone from FNAF 6 and not just William? Well, the blob, which is a massive sized proportion of wire tentacles, because of course it is, and animatronic parts with possession of many glowing eyes. It has a whole load of them, okay? It has a mask that is identical to that of Funtime Freddy with black eyes, pinkish red glowing pupils, and like the endo face that reveals to have face plates rather than tubes, which is already a whole other can of worms that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. The blob's body is a large mass of wire like tentacles, and like it's basically what the sister location endos were made out of. However, it also appears to be a larger version of Molten Freddy from the Pizza Simulator Fire. Okay, but it's far bigger, and it has parts of other animatronics like Circus Baby, the puppet, Chica for some reason, Mangle, Bonnie, and several Endo Mark IIs. And you know what? There's probably others, which again is a whole other can of worms that I don't want to touch.
Number 3, Funtime Bonnie is a spring-lock suit. Funtime Bonnie really only appears in sister location as an empty head. But what if there is something else going on with this animatronic? After all, there is one animatronic who we also don't get a good look at in the game, but who we are pretty familiar with by the end of it, just based on our experiences. That would be the spring-lock animatronic that we are stuck in temporarily. While we never see it explicitly, we also never get to see Funtime Bonnie explicitly either. This has led some to theorize that Funtime Bonnie is said spring-lock suit and is the older animatronic that Circus Baby was referring to. The only thing that seems odd is how new we'd imagine Funtime Bonnie to look, but then again, it's more likely that the animatronics at sister location are actually really old and have just been well maintained and possibly refurbished, and possibly, you know, hidden away there. After all, Circus Baby's Pizza World seems to be one of the first locations, I think. This timeline is hard to keep track of, so forgive me if I'm wrong about something that has not actually been confirmed. So I guess we can't really be wrong about much.
Penultimately, in at number 2, Finally Dead. The true ending is seemingly one of the scariest parts of the game because it contains a load of things, okay? After making your way into Burntrap's area, Freddy will be taken over by Afton's newest form, and it's up to Gregory to defeat him by pressing 3 buttons outside of 3 monitors to burn Burntrap. Players will also need to avoid the animatronic enemies that come for Gregory and then use the doors to temporarily lock them out, and then other things. When Burntrap is finally burned, the blob, which was that tentacle monster thing that I was talking about, attacks him to make sure that he doesn't get away. Freddy and Gregory will then be shown escaping and sitting on a hill together. However, if the blob actually does kill William is a totally different question. There are death animations in the game files, however they aren't used in the ending, so we can't count it as canon. Plus, the whole I always come back thing should have ended with this game from what we understood about the series, but he came back nonetheless, so even logical conclusions aren't going to help us. And if the blob was going to ensure William's death, it would then have to ensure its own death, so I doubt that it did it. God, just please let William finally be dead for the love of everything in life. Please. And finally, in at number 1, comes back. I think that unfortunately Afton being resurrected or returning in some form or another is inevitable. I don't get why, okay? I think at this point we can move on from this killer. We have a new one, but a load of people seem to think that we need Afton back again. I put a poll up on like the Vanny facts lists that we know during the premiere. And even though the video is about Vanny, only 51% of people thought that she was better than Glitchtrap. And I think that speaks volumes as to who the favorite in this series is. Like, I get that we've grown up with Afton as the killer, okay, but hell, we didn't even know his name until Sister Location. Until that point, we were calling him after a frickin' color, okay? We've known this man's name for like 5 games. That's literally half the series. That's half the time the series has been out. The first 4 games didn't have him, okay? He was just like, he wasn't even a character in the first game. Just a mysterious man that Matt Pat compared to Nathan Dunlap, okay? Just end him. Finally, please.
Number 10, where to next? So one of the theories I've been wondering about is, what do all of these locations mean? And where could we be heading next on this tour? We've been to some interesting places, a forest, a few houses, or restaurants, not really sure, a cave, but where are we headed next? Episode 4 seems to be where we break the mold a bit in terms of the formula of these episodes. Instead of us ending the episode with everyone back on the tour bus after singing, Freddy and Friends end the episode walking on. Is it possible that this means they might already be at their final destination? And perhaps they, don't need to drive anymore, they can just walk there. And what would make the most sense for that final destination? I feel like it's very likely we'll be heading to the Mega Pizzaplex to meet some new characters in these final episodes as we get closer to Security Breach's release.
And at 9, guest starring. The idea that Glitchtrap and Vanny would be appearing in these videos has already been confirmed. I mean, like, the idea about it, not that it's actually gonna happen. I mean, it did happen, but I'm not talking about just the glitches as puzzles or surprise characters. I mean genuine animated characters guest starring in the show, and I think that's where it's headed. Currently, we're 4 episodes in, and those 4 episodes have all featured a specific animatronic heavily. We've had Freddy, then Chica, then Bonnie, then Foxy, and now, seemingly with 2 more episodes to go, the next one will be revealing the month most likely that the game comes out. But who will the show be focusing on now that Foxy's joined the gang? I mean, it would make sense for it to be Vanny and Glitchtrap, but more specifically Vanny since she will be the main antagonist of the game, and this is a wonderful way of confirming that she and the security guard Vanessa are 2 different people, since they've established to take the mask off the character they catch at the end of the episode and then get surprised by the result, even if it's a robot and everyone else is a robot. So, could Vanny be the next one up, followed by Glitchtrap and an Afton face reveal? I think it would probably glitch out before we actually saw his face though, honestly, so, I don't know.
Number 8, where have we been? So we've talked about where we might end up, who we might see in these next episodes, but where exactly are we coming from on our tour? Well, the first location seems to be a forest, and honestly, other than, I don't know, maybe FNAF World, I'm not exactly sure what the relevance of this location could be. I haven't figured that one out yet. But the second episode seems to resemble a lot the Freddy Fazbear's location we see in FNAF 2, right down to the checkered floors and the half-papered walls. The third episode also seems to have a familiar feel, at least when it comes to the internal appearance of the building. While externally this place looks the same, inside the hallway resembles something out of the house from FNAF 4. The windows over the doors kinda look similar to the windows that we see on the exterior of that house. Once again, the hallway is half papered, which is also something that you might notice in the house in FNAF 4. Even the plant at the back seems to have a similar color design scheme to a plant you can sometimes spot near the side table by the bed. The fourth episode location is also maybe a little bit more abstract, like the first. It could either be a reference to sister location, which is underground, like the cave we roam in, or it could be a more direct reference to the walkway we seem to run through in the Security Breach trailer, located beneath the Mega Pizzaplex hewn into rocky terrain.
And it's 7 Bonnie. This is an interesting theory from Reddit user u/was that the bite of 87 on the Game Theorist subreddit a month ago, which actually Matt Pat just talked about in his last Game Theory on Sunday. The post didn't get much love, but it's certainly interesting. Was that the bite of _87 asks if the Burntrap animatronic is using the disassembled Bonnie. Quote from the Reddit post. So, I have a theory that Burntrap is using the disassembled Bonnie robot. Let me explain. So you know how Burntrap has an intact animatronic foot even though no other Springtrap or Scraptrap never had them? Management might have disassembled Bonnie, and there could have been a body of Glitchtrap infected person in there, which explains the dead rotting corpse, and Afton could have taken over, but is weak, which explains why he needs a recharge station. That is all I have for now. It's kind of rough, but considering how Afton's body is still in that robot, which wouldn't be necessary if his consciousness is only in Glitchtrap or if it was transferred into this endo, I don't think that this is actually like the canon. Like I think that if Afton's body wasn't in the robot, you'd be onto something, and like Matt Pat would also be onto something because he also agrees that this should be Glam Rock Bonnie's endo. But his body being in there has to be Scraptrap, but like heavily burnt. Like sure he has another arm, but they could have just added an arm onto him. But like the main body of it would have to be Scraptrap, unless we have like a really messed up scenario going on, which is possible, but it's a kid's game, so I don't know. I mean, like, would Vanny take Afton's rotting corpse and put it in a new endo? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I think that they just replaced the arms and the legs so that he could stand, because he didn't have his actual human feet anymore. That's just what I think.
Number 6, your friend and mine, Montgomery. While we've talked about the possibility of Glitchtrap and Vanny making a more cartoonish appearance perhaps in the next few episodes, it's also possible that they could be used to introduce us to some of the new animatronics featured in Security Breach. One such animatronic that might show up here is Montgomery Gator. We don't know that much about him yet, and considering that he is a friend of Freddy's in the band, it's likely that either Montgomery or I don't know, maybe Roxanne could be the focal points of future episodes. Although Foxy is also joined in now, so I mean that's also a possible character who could be prominently featured. Number 5, Yellow Suit. In FNAF 2 on night 6, Phone Guy's call reveals that he is surprised you came into work at the location, as it is meant to be shut down for a while. He tells you that there was an incident that happened involving the yellow suit in the back, which many have theorized to be the springlock suit used in the missing children incident, where 5 victims went missing. Some even think that this phone call is referring to that incident. Phone Guy claims that someone wore the yellow suit, and ever since the animatronics have been acting strangely. Is it because they had victims stuffed into them, and possibly because those victims' souls are making the animatronics behave more aggressively because they're possessing them? I don't know, but it makes sense. Number 4, Stitch Wraith. In episode 1, we get a glitched out frame that reveals a creepy face which appears to be mid-jump scare based on its positioning. The face is eerie with big white glowing eyes peering out of a white mask-like face. Many fans have theorized, and I think we're kinda in agreement here too on this channel, that this could be the face of the Stitch Wraith who appears in the Fazbear Frights books. The Stitch Wraith is a character that we've been pondering on for a while in regards to when or if it might make its way from the books to the games, and it looks like Security Breach might be the game that introduces us to this character, which would also be pretty momentous if we also get that time-traveling ball pit, as that could be two direct connections from the books to the games, which otherwise seem to kind of take place within different continuities thus far.
Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Wanted, dead or alive. Forget it. Because, yeah, you know what? This is actually a good question in this case, since I don't know if Afton is alive or dead inside of the Burntrap suit, okay? He was alive in the Springtrap and Scraptrap suits, as we learned from the man in room 1280, because he was possessed by the one you should not have killed. But did he finally get put down after FNAF 6, or is he still kicking? Okay, his body is still present within the Burntrap suit, or at least it partially is. His skull is still there. So, what's the consensus here? I don't know. The existence of Glitchtrap seems to imply that he's dead in the suit, but Ultimate Custom Night suggests that the one you should not have killed is still possessing him, which would be what he sees in the recharge station, which would mean that he's alive, and not because of the recharge station, but because the one you should not have killed would still be possessing him, which they would only do if he was still alive, since if we're being honest, the only reason that Afton was possessed was so that he could suffer, so being possessed after he's dead isn't really gonna do anything for Crying Child, because that Crying Child is definitely the one you should not have killed, not Cassidy, I'm saying it, okay? It's a thing. And the one you should not have killed would not be controlling Burntrap to take over Freddy and turn things evil. It just goes against what we know about the character. So, I don't know at this point. I feel like he's probably still alive, but like just barely. Although, that means that Glitchtrap shouldn't exist.
Number 2, Bonnie host. One thing I have been theorizing for some time is that while Gregory seems to be a potential victim in Security Breach, if Glitchtrap does return, Gregory won't be the desired host for him. Neither will Vanny. We have all theorized for some time about what William Afton's motives could have been for the killings and all the experimentation, and many fans believe that immortality is his end goal. If this is true, then an animatronic host really seems like the best bet. One animatronic that is noticeably absent in the trailer? Bonnie. Hence why I believe Bonnie could very well be our next host for William Afton's code, spirit, or essence, whatever you want to call it. Of course, Foxy is absent too, but Scott Cawthon has stated before that he's thought of Bonnie as the scariest animatronic. Also, if you want to carry on, you know, that bunny killer theme, then Bonnie just seems to make the most sense here.
And finally, and at number 1, Glitchtrap roaming. This idea actually came from the YouTube comments of user HitBlank on our community post from when I found the hidden Glitchtrap in episode 4. We apparently weren't the first people to actually find it because someone found it on Reddit, but I found it on my own, so I'm still proud of it. But this comment suggested that Glitchtrap is now roaming through YouTube, and that's a pretty damn terrifying suggestion, but it can also explain a load of issues in the series. If this game is supposed to take place at the same time as FNAF AR, and Glitchtrap is controlling Vanny, that should be impossible. However, if Glitchtrap is on YouTube, now in 2021, it can explain a whole load of issues, since basically Glitchtrap could be using YouTube to try and travel. Appearing in these videos now, but getting uploaded later on thanks to people either playing the Fredbear virtual experience in the future and then putting it on their channels or something similar. Meaning he'd get uploaded to YouTube and then use it to travel back and create Vanny through these videos. Look, I know it's a stretch, but just bear with me. It also means that he could secretly be in these videos. And at 10, Reluctant Tape Girl. The concept of Glitchtrap invading minds has been around since before the announcement of Security Breach, and more so the idea that Tape Girl was one of his first victims of this Glitchtrap brain virus. Jeremy would have been the first one, however he cut his own face off using a guillotine paper cutter in an attempt to get Glitchtrap out of his head, so Tape Girl I guess would be the first surviving victim, as long as she's still alive. Not only that, but could Tape Girl have been infected and really be Vanny? It's a question that we've all had on our minds, and honestly we don't know if it's the case. It would be nice since it would add this sense of connection to the new killer since we worked with them in Help Wanted, but it's unlikely just based on the voice actor, since Vanny and Tape Girl from my understanding are voiced by two different people. And while this isn't exactly a deal breaker, it's definitely something we should take into consideration. On the contrary, we could say that the new voice actor is because it's Glitchtrap talking through Vanny, as evidenced by her at some points glitching while speaking, as we hear in the Security Breach trailer. And at 9, Glitching Grave. The FNAF VR DLC, The Curse of Dreadbear, is honestly my favorite game ever. The Corn Maze minigame is both horrifying but awesome, and while I hardly ever lose that game mode, it's fairly common to see the game over screen after the Corn Maze and many other games like The Hallway. However, on this screen, while Dreadbear reaches his hand towards you and Foxy attempts to intimidate you with his hook, you can see a few graves on a small hill. By boundary breaking, we can actually go and see these graves, and if you do, you'll notice something a little odd. A total of 8 graves stand in a circle with one in the middle. Well, like total as in like in total with the one in the middle it's 8 graves. 6 of the outer graves obviously represent the original 6 victims. The missing children who go on to inhabit the original 5 animatronics, Susie, Jeremy, Gabriel, Fritz, and Cassidy, as well as the puppet, Charlotte. Yet the final grave may remain a mystery. But with some educated guessing, we can assume that this additional 7th grave is Jeremy that Glitchtrap took by driving him to chop off his face. The greatest clue, however, is the grave in the middle, that is purple and black and glitching. This is obviously representing William, who is actually dead after the events of the Man in Room 1280, and the final nail in the coffin is the bunny ear texture running across this grave, because, you know. He dresses like a bunny. Hashtag William Afton is a furry. It's a thing. It's canon now. And it ain't meant to lose. Were we meant to lose FNAF VR? Was it rigged against us from the beginning? Is the only way to truly win to not play at all, or by removing the headset before it's too late? Well, based on some Reddit theorists, yes indeed. The main game of FNAF VR is actually kind of hidden, and our main objective is to collect 16 tapes that slowly give us more and more info about what's truly going on behind the scenes. But no matter what tapes we find in what mini games, they always unlock in the same order. 1 to 16, always. No skipping, no finding 16 first, and that's intentional in the game we play, since tape 15 tells us not to find all 16, and if we found that one first, then why would we continue? So the game itself sets us up to be kinda screwed. But did it prevent us from winning? Since even if you follow Tape Girl's instructions on tape 16, you end up locked in a room, presumably in your own mind, while Glitchtrap takes over, and if we don't do the ritual properly, we get merged with him anyway. So if anything, we actually are in more control if we don't follow her instructions. But does that mean we win, or were we always meant to lose? In its 7 corrupted code. I've said multiple times that if Glitchtrap was actually never meant to be in the game, that he wouldn't be able to do the things he does, like moving curtains and whatnot. However, there is another possibility that is just as viable. Did William take control of Glitchtrap? You see, there are technically 2 versions of Glitchtrap present within the game. The one in a full suit that is solid that we see when we're in the pizza party minigame and then when he attacks us after collecting all 16 tapes, but the thing is, even if you don't collect a single tape and play through the whole game, that pizza party minigame Glitchtrap will still be there fully formed. However, if you collect most of the tapes and don't fully reassemble Glitchtrap, the form you see to the right of you is like a hologram, like how we would assume a sentient code ghost would look like, I guess. So what if instead of creating the Glitchtrap character from scratch, William simply corrupted the character with himself, or even made a copy of the character that Tape Girl then had to stow away using the tapes? I don't know how many people are talking about this, but it seems like there's something there. And it's 6 first suit. Glitchtrap is very clearly a callback to William using the Spring Bonnie suit, but why is he not using that same suit, or at least a more mechanical one in the game? It's simple. Do you remember what happened to him? He got spring locked. It would have killed him if not for a mischievous little spirit who refused to let go. So why, if he could choose his own form, would he manifest in the suit that caused him agonizing pain for over 30 years? Exactly. The question here is, was this William's first Bonnie suit? It has the stitch marks that a normal fabric suit would have, especially from back then, and it clearly has a Chuck E. Cheese employee that's inside kind of vibe. So it definitely could be, but we know thanks to fast facts and later information that some of the first animatronics that William ever made were the Funtime robots that we see in Sister Location. And these animatronics weren't even used until Circus Babies was open after Freddy's announced that it would be closing. So that would mean that the Spring Bonnie suit was in full working condition either before those or shortly after. And if this wasn't the first suit, why would he choose to look like this and stand out in a game that is all about looking back at the past? Halfway through into number 5, ideal form. With Glitchtrap being explained to us as a manifestation that was created after scanning hard drives, we can reasonably assume that William created this body, even if other possibilities are more likely. But if he did make this body, does that mean that it's his ideal form? Not having to worry about spring locks, since that didn't end too well the last time, nobody knowing who he truly is, but still in that classic Golden Bonnie suit. Well, if this is the case, what does he look like under the suit? Is he still burnt, or is he healed? When pyromaniacs or other people who have been driven mad by fire are showcased in movies, TV, or documentaries, they always say that the fire cleansed them or showed them their true path somehow, and that their burns are their form of baptism. But does William feel the same? I mean, this guy survived 2 fires at least and was still kicking after being taken off life support, so I mean he has to be at least a little superstitious about that, right? Or, I guess, just suspicious. Either way, I just want to know if this is what his ideal form is, and if it is, how am I supposed to compete with these unrealistic male body standards? In at 4, the cult. While we were fairly certain that William has a hold on Tape Girl, we know he has a hold on Vanny. But is there anyone else that William is controlling? Map had suggested it even before Security Breach was announced, since the FNAF VR DLC was released in fact. The idea that Glitchtrap is controlling multiple individuals at once. Of course, this would be proven if Tape Girl and Vanessa are two different people, but since we have no frame of reference as to what Tape Girl looks like, we can't be certain. We know how he got a hold of her, but is she still alive, or did William get rid of that loose end and grab onto someone else? Did we play as Vanny? Like, was Vanny the game tester that we were playing as in Help Wanted that gets gotten by Glitchtrap at the end of the game? We don't know. So far we know that he controls one individual, but he was still appearing in Help Wanted. However, when we beat the game and merge with him and get locked in our own mind, the actual Glitchtrap that we see standing behind us in the main lobby goes away, and we're left with a plushie. So maybe he isn't powerful enough to manifest in multiple places, and when he's controlling someone he isn't anywhere else. It's an interesting concept, but what do you think? Is Glitchtrap able to control multiple people at once, or just one at a time? Let me know down below. I think based on the plushie, I think that he can only control one person. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, the one you didn't mean to kill. I still personally believe that Crying Child is the one you should not have killed. It just makes more sense and explains a lot more. And you know, FNAF VR may be providing us some evidence in that direction. Many fans noted the shocking absence of one of the series' most popular characters, Golden Freddy, not appearing once in the game. Not even in parts and service, which is odd given the amount of maintenance that character would need. But there is an appearance of Crying Child, or at least his VR equivalent, given that his room is there along with the nightmare animatronics which only appeared in his mind. So this proves to us that Golden Freddy and Crying Child are two separate entities, and thus Crying Child is not possessing Golden Freddy, as long as you look at it in the right way and are actually not like trying to look for anything or literally anything to counter me. Like when your parent comes into your room to check your cleaning and then starts checking the most ungodly places that you would never think to clean, like inside your TV or under your mattress. Yeah, that's what you're doing by trying to counter that. This separation of characters proves that Crying Child is not inside Golden Freddy, and if that is the case, where did he go when he dies in the hospital with no animatronics around and only his father? Boom, right into Glitchtrap. Okay, well, not Glitchtrap per se, but William, who just so happens to also be Glitchtrap. You know what I mean. Penultimately, in at number 2, Intended. Tape Girl tells us that Glitchtrap isn't an intentional part of the game, but to me that's a load of BS. Glitchtrap is an odd character, an accidental addition to FNAF VR that somehow ends up interacting with the environment and altering aspects of the game. Like, what? I've always questioned why Glitchtrap is able to move around the curtain and even seemingly put us in the Freddy suit at the end of the game. Like, sure, he's technically a spirit, but he's still game code and would have to obey the laws of such. Right? So how is he able to move things like the curtain? Like when we're in the pizza party minigame in the final room, he pulls the curtain aside and then gestures for us to come in. How does he do that? When I literally can't move anything unless it's supposed to be interactable. I can't move that curtain. Simple. He wasn't an accident. If he was a glitch, unintentional, how would this ending make sense? Who would have put us in the Freddy suit? We wouldn't crawl in there ourselves after all. Was there another character there? Did Glitchtrap replace them? No, he didn't. He was actually meant to be there, since you can see this ending without collecting all 16 tapes. And if you don't collect all 16 tapes, he wouldn't be reassembled yet. He wouldn't be able to interact with you. Glitchtrap was an intentional feature of this game, which makes me think, who else does William have under his palm? Yes, I said palm. Was it intentional? No. Did I say it? Am I sticking by it? Yes. Finally, in at number 1, Resurrection. We don't know much about the upcoming FNAF game Security Breach. So far we know that there are at least 5 animatronics and a whole pizzaplex for us to explore, and the game will have a day and night cycle, but then Afton will somehow be involved thanks to, you know, Vanny, another goddamn rabbit killer. However, we also think that Afton is going to come back yet again, since in the gameplay trailer released for the game by PlayStation, at the very end we see a seemingly metallic arm reach out from behind some boxes. Some believe that this is the Stitch Wraith, others believe that this is William. I think it's William, since we can see the reflection of purple light coming off the arm. And at this point, I can't even wear a purple shirt without you guys calling me the purple guy. So if there's purple light anywhere in anything FNAF, it's gonna be William, alright? Also, one Twitter user going by the name @officialz3RoyT mentioned me, @centimeter_Monroe, and showed me that the hand that comes out covered in purple light looks an awful lot like Nightmare Freddy's arm, which, if this is the case, opens up a whole new can of worms that I don't want to have to deal with. Because if that is the case, Nightmare animatronics never had a physical form. So if he does come out with the freaking nightmare animatronic endoskeleton, I'm gonna be mad. Okay, that's all. I'm gonna be pissed. This combined with the fact that he appears to be trying to escape in this game indicates that he will definitely be successful. I mean, you can't have a new killer for too long. We're gonna miss William. I mean, I'm not. I'm certainly not, but hey. That's what happens. Into 10, dreadful dancing. The end of the main game of FNAF VR has us getting stuffed into the Freddy animatronic on stage by Glitchtrap and singing a song while he dances in the dining area where we make all of our decisions, you know, where we choose what games we want, etc. However, the question is, why is he dancing? At this point, this man has done nothing to escape the game, yet, like, he's still trapped in it, and he isn't really able to get out as of yet, so why is this happening? Is it because he's killing again, or was just able to stuff someone in a suit again, which seems to be his kind of kink? Which, I mean, like, I'm definitely going to be kink shaming that, because, like, while you can be into whatever you're into, okay, I think that saying reaches its limit when you're actually harming other people. Just saying. However, his dancing is very weird and became a meme in and of itself, but there still doesn't really seem to be a solid purpose behind it. And at 9, Curse of Dreadful Dancing. The same remains true in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC for Help Wanted, whereby turning the game into blacklight mode, which was only added for this Easter egg given that the DLC has no hard mode levels, turn around and look at the car for around 10 to 15 seconds, which some people believe is a reference to the Midnight Motorist minigame, since after looking at the car you can turn around and see Glitchtrap dancing by a house on a hill similar to how we see FNAF 4's house. He isn't on the same hill, but it seems to indicate that there's a connection between him, a car, and a house. Sound familiar? Well, it should, because it's what we were all thinking was going on in Midnight Motorist in FNAF 6. More on that in a minute. But even when you do this Easter egg, he never gets any closer. He just stays dancing on that hill, which is even more confusing because, like, well, why? The only other time we've seen him dance like that was when he stuffed us in the main game, so why is he dancing like it again? And this can happen whether he's possessed you or not, which makes me think that this may not be the Glitchtrap we know after all. And at 8, Midnight Motorist. As I said, we seem to have confirmation that Glitchtrap, aka William Afton, was the one in the Midnight Motorist car based on that Easter egg, right? Well, what if I told you that there was another explanation? That would also explain the dancing. Yeah, you heard that right. All of this may actually be indicating something entirely different from Midnight Motorist. You see, when Glitchtrap was introduced, we thought that he might have been the animatronic, or I guess the person, who came to get Mustard Man's son out of his room since there was footprints with 3 toes. However, most animatronics have 3 toes, so that wasn't much to go on. But now we have some. Since looking at a car and then a house is very clearly meant to be a Midnight Motorist reference, Glitchtrap is on a hill separate to the house, as if he isn't connected directly. And, well, he's dancing. And the only other time we've seen him dance is when he had just killed us at the end of the Pizza Party minigame. So, was the Midnight Motorist minigame just William's second victim, hence the dancing on the hill? Did he take Mustard Man's son after killing Charlotte? Let me know your thoughts down below. And at 7, Bunny Call. The Fazbear Frights book Bunny Call has some shocking implications for the FNAF series, and it relates most to FNAF VR's story when talking about the games. Since in The Man in Room 1280, William requests to be taken to a Fazbear Entertainment storehouse, where he promptly explodes. This would be weird on its own, but then the man who brought him there notices bloody footprints leading towards a shelf. On that shelf is presumably circuit boards, which end up being the same circuit boards scanned to help make the AI in Help Wanted. But this also introduces a virus, an entity that was never supposed to be in the game. That entity, as we learn, is Glitchtrap. But how did this work out so well? How did William's agony or soul end up becoming sentient code in a video game? Even if you possess a hard drive, that doesn't mean you end up becoming the files on that hard drive, right? I guess we don't really know how possession works in the FNAF universe, so it's impossible to say, but how did William's circuit board end up being scanned? Or was this the plan from the beginning? And at 6, Steelwool Studios. Could the situation of Glitchtrap, or rather I guess FNAF VR in general, just be a representation of Steelwool Studios? I mean, the story that we're told in Help Wanted of an indie game developer making games about tragedies that took situations that happened in a children's pizzeria that ruined their reputation seems to be what happened in real life, with Scott making the FNAF games, potentially based on a string of real life killings, and bringing down the Chuck E. Cheese business, at least from what we can assume, considering how they really went out of business in some states because of COVID. However, there were some false false articles about 5 children going missing and night guards dying on the job that went viral on Twitter for a hot minute that resulted in plenty of people believing them to be true. Plus, a lot of fans from what I'm seeing in the comments would rather go to a Freddy Fazbear's instead of Chuck E. Cheese, even though Chuck E. Cheese is real. Even so much as refusing to go to Chuck E. Cheese because it isn't FNAF. So that leaves the question, is this game meant to represent real life? And if so, who does Glitchtrap represent? The killer that Afton is based on? The CEO of Steelable who was pushing for security breach to be bigger, thus resulting in delays? Or is he us? Halfway through in at number 5, Agony Boom. Like I suggested in number 7, I believe that this entire thing was planned. Maybe not from the beginning, but at least from when William discovered how remnant, or I guess possession, works. Because how does a man who has been possessed by a kid for years, who was living off of life support somehow, who survived multiple fires and a spring locking, end up randomly exploding when within proximity to something that he needed to continue, I guess, at least, in a way, living? Since technically, according to the dictionary definition of alive, William is not alive. But the thing that bothered me about this is that he exploded. Like, how did he just randomly explode? Just spontaneous combustion? Sure, I can get that. You catch on fire, whatever. But spontaneous combustion? No, I don't think it was random. I think that he planned it. That he had a bomb planted inside of him before he was even spring locked. Too many things worked out for him in this sense. Like, why would scanning circuit boards help improve or even make AI for animatronics in a video game? That doesn't make sense. How is it that they scanned the exact board that William had attached himself to? And like, how did any of this work out for him? Because he had planned it out. He put a bomb inside him so that when he could finally die, he would die in agony, allowing his spirit to grab hold of something. He asked to be brought to that warehouse since he knew he had already set in motion the events that would lead to his next incarnation. He planned it all from the beginning. Plus, it explains how he just, randomly exploded, because that's still a thing. And at 4, rituals. This comes from my personal collection of theories that I haven't really talked about because they have since been proven, or basically proven wrong. We now know that William was trying to escape the game through possessing someone. However, when the game originally came out, I thought something different. That William was in fact trying to escape by killing one person, sharing a name with each of his original 5 or 6 victims. Susie, Jeremy, Fritz, Gabriel, Cassidy, and maybe Charlotte. This started with the introduction of yet another Jeremy, because of course we needed another one. However, this one bit the dust before the game even started, since he cut his own face off after seeing Glitchtrap and presumably getting possessed. And then he gets to Tape Girl, who we don't really have a name for. Then we come to the Pizza Party minigame where we end up getting stuffed into Freddy, who is alone on stage. But where are the other animatronics, you ask? Well, they're in the back room. Chica and Bonnie were there, except they were damaged so they weren't on stage with us. And remember, Glitchtrap has taken 2 people. If you pay attention though, you may remember the name of the kid who possessed Bonnie. Jeremy. And in this game we get another Jeremy. I mean, he cuts his face off, and yet in the Pizza Party minigame we still see Bonnie with, what's that? Oh right, a missing face. This was certainly intentional, but I thought that it meant that we were named Gabriel and that Glitchtrap was about to escape, but that turned out to not be the case. I also thought the Tape Girl could have been named Susie because she was Glitchtrap's other confirmed victim, and Chica was also in the back room with us during the Pizza Party minigame. Yeah. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Princess Quest. Princess Quest is a minigame present on the mobile ports of FNAF VR. They added this minigame as a way to make up for Glitchtrap's absence due to size constraints, cause, FNAF VR was never meant to be on a phone. However, this game features quite a similar theme to the main version that multiple people pointed out. You play as a girl running through a castle lighting braziers, 16 of them to be exact, and when you light the 16th, a horrific abomination appears. This has been discovered to be Glitchtrap still present in the game, since audio from that moment when you speed it up and reverse it says, "I always come back, let me out." And text that is read in code says that signature line of "I always come back." However, I think this can reveal more to us than we thought. You see, we've been questioning if we played as Vanny in FNAF VR or if Tape Girl was Vanny, and I think that this game, that Princess Quest, actually tells us. If this game is meant to represent the whole of Help Wanted, with the 16 braziers representing the 16 tapes and Glitchtrap appearing after you find the 16th, or I guess light the 16th, our character in Princess Quest is in fact female. It's Princess Quest after all. So by proxy, our character in FNAF VR would also be female. So does that settle it? Are we actually Vanny? Probably. Penultimately, and at number 2, single and ready to mingle. Glitchtrap from the looks of things can only possess one individual, which I know goes against Matt Pat, so a load of you are already commenting how stupid I am, but hear me out. I discussed this in my We Are Vanny theory video, so if you want that more in context, go watch that. However, I don't think Glitchtrap can possess multiple people, and I think that Help Wanted has been telling us this from the get-go and we never noticed. During the final showdown, if you actually follow Tape Girl's instructions properly, you end up locking yourself in your own mind. And then that Glitchtrap manifestation that was to our right just somehow turns into a green rabbit plush that just sits on the ground where he used to stand. This moment indicates that now we're actually possessed. If we don't follow the instructions, we end up merging with him on stage, but yeah, that's on stage in the game. That's why we don't see our character's hands and goggles looking at our station. That isn't in the real world. Yet, if you're focused on trying to do the complicated process of actually pressing the buttons and flipping the levers, your mind is vulnerable. You aren't fighting off Glitchtrap, and instead you're trying to do things in the right order, which ends up giving Glitchtrap a perfect path into your psyche, thus being able to lock you in your own mind. Once Glitchtrap actually gets to your mind though, we can see that he can no longer actually manifest in the game and is replaced by something so that the game doesn't shatter into a million pieces, because the code would still need to be there. Glitchtrap cannot be in 2 places at once, therefore he cannot possess multiple people at once. Boom. Finally, in at number 1, Freddy and Friends. The Freddy and Friends on Tour series has 2 episodes now and seems to be released weekly on the Steelwool Studios YouTube channel. However, there's something seemingly wrong with them, as they keep glitching to reveal characters from Security Breach and, most notably, the Stitch Wraith, as well as Moondrop and their Sun variation. However, what if there is more of a reason for these glitches lore-wise than just some fun teasers that are, in essence, the Back to the Future movies? And I say this because it's the same characters doing the same thing over and over, just with a different setting, and maybe 2 other things that change, but I mean, I still love the Back to the Future movies. But what if Glitchtrap somehow made his way into the show? This wouldn't be anything new. Story taking place outside the games happens quite frequently in this series. Take Baby having a fight with Ennard, for example. That happens between games in the source code for ScottGames.com. So, with William making an effort to make his way into an animatronic body, what if these clips are him working on that? After all, they are glitches, and just because they're coming out before Security Breach doesn't mean they take place before it. Take FNAF 2, which is a prequel for FNAF 1. These things don't have to appear in order. Therefore, these could very well be after we save Vanny or after William no longer has use for her and went back to possessing technology so that he could take over the Stitch Wraith's endoskeleton at the end of Security Breach.